UFC 304 is loaded with live underdogs. We have 2 fights that are 25 minutes long. And all of this means is that we're going to have some very interesting DraftKings lineups and scoring. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC 304 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. Before we jump into the breakdown, let's take a look at the insane success that our premium member community has been having. Our premium members have put up almost $600,000 in winning DraftKings fantasy tickets over the last 6 months. And that's not an accident. This isn't a coincidence that this many people are taking down these giant tournaments, because every single one of these premium members has access to our DraftKings optimizer. This is preloaded with ownership projections, the literal best ownership projections in the world. And this builds lineups for them. It'll build 150 lineups for them. You can unlock the ownership projections, the DraftKings optimizer, also picks, bets, and everything else for only $10 a month. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's $10 for an entire month, so you're going to get UFC 304. Next week is UFC Abu Dhabi. We have 2 cards after that. All of those are included. That's $2.50 a week. Quite literally the greatest product on the planet, with an insane price point. The latest addition to premium membership is called the Data Analyzer. This is, no exaggeration whatsoever, the best research tool you could ever find, want, or need. First of all, you can select your event. This is going to go all the way out till September 7th. So we have 5 events included with data, loaded, ready to go. Then you select your fighter. Let's say we choose Belal Muhammad. This data set is going to completely refresh. You'll see all the data you could want or need from him. How many strikes is he landing? How many takedowns is he getting? What about in wins? What about losses? How many times is he getting hit? How old is he compared to his opponent? All of that data is right there. Then you can come down here and add filters. So I want to see takedowns. I want to see takedowns in wins. I want to see takedowns in wins that went to a full decision, and here's your statistic. I can export this graph if I wanted to, and every single one of these dots on the graph is going to give you the fight that happened in. I'm hovering over Belal Muhammad's win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. It was 3 rounds. It was at welterweight. The referee was Herb Dean. The 3 judges' scorecards were 30-25, 30-26, and 30-26. I know who the judges were. I know what those scorecards were. And if I click this little red button, it will take me out to the video so I can watch the fight with my own 2 eyes. You can unlock the data analyzer, the DraftKings optimizer. You can join this crew of people taking down giant tournaments for only $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's go ahead and break this card down. We have 14 fights to work with here. We have a couple of short notice people. The weigh-ins are happening right now. Jake Hadley missed weight. I don't know if he's going to continue to try. We'll find out. You probably know by the time you're watching this. And if you don't forget, we got Minty Betts. Minty, the woman on the ESPN broadcast. She does a weigh-in recap for you. She watches the weigh-in. She does all the notes. She gives you all the context. It's like a 5-minute video that recaps 2 hours worth of weigh-ins, all the goods and all the bads. So make sure you check out that video before you place some bets if you haven't already placed them, before you build your lineup if you haven't already built it. This way you have a little context. You know who missed weight, who didn't miss weight, who looked like they were dying, who looked absolutely fantastic. As of right now, the only one I know about that has had an issue is little-ass short notice Jake Hadley. But let's go ahead and break down this card. Opening up the UFC 304 fight card, we have a short notice matchup. We have Shauna Bannon, who was already on the card, taking on Ardelean, who is short notice. Shauna Bannon, not very good. Not very good. She was supposed to be Mama B. Mama B. Oh, look at me. I'm so good looking. I'm Mama B. All of that is incorrect. She showed up. She lost her UFC debut against Bruna, Brasil, who was also on this card. Shauna Bannon's not terrible. I'm being a little facetious here. She's a striker. She's had a traditional martial arts background. She always likes to move forward, so she is tough. She will pressure you. She does force things, meaning she doesn't seem like she's naturally gifted or especially comfortable in some of these exchanges, but she will move forward. She will bring the fight to her opponents. She's incredibly tough, seemingly very strong, She is coming off a loss in her UFC debut, you see right here, against Bruna, Brasil. She's taking on Alice Ardelean. Short notice step up for her UFC debut, so we have no data. Alice Ardelean is a big social media star. She's got well over 2 million followers on all of her platforms. And the reason that matters is because that's how she got this opportunity. She's not the greatest fighter. She does have some holes, but what she is, though, is tough. She's insanely tough. She does have 5 losses, but if you look at the losses, she lost to Weili Zhang on the regional scene. She lost to Diana Belbita on the regional scene. These are fights against established UFC fighters, the current champion that she just happened to get on the regional scene. But overall, Alice Ardelean is, Alice Ardelean. Yeah, I got it. Ange. She's very tough. She's a gamer. She's busy. She'll stay in your face. She has some success because of the pressure. She's not afraid to get into an absolute dogfight. She will chase finishes, mostly a striker. She doesn't really have any traditional background. She doesn't have anything that she's been working on for years, but she is tough. She will move forward, and she will hang out for a firefight. I think Alice Ardelean can win this fight. Neither one of them are wildly technical. Neither one of them have like incredible wrestling in their back pocket, but both of these women are tough, and they will move forward. And I think Alice is just a little tougher, at least based off of the footage that we've seen. But this is short notice. This is a UFC debut. There's a million factors here. I'm leaning Alice. I don't know if I'm going to spend the $7,300 in DraftKings, although that is a very enticing price point. I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely not spending the money on Mama B. Mama B, Mama B, Mama B. Then we got Mick Parkin, big time favorite. I do think he wins. I'm not spending the money on him as well. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Beat 59 points beating Muhammad Usman, who we know sucks. Beats Caio Machado, 83 points on a $9,200 salary. UFC debut win. He was a dog against Jamal Pogues, 69 points. The guy scores nothing. Scores basically nothing. It's a sad day. What does make it a little tricky, though, is he might finish this fight. Mick Parkin's a pretty big guy for heavyweight. He's the newer generation of heavyweight, so he's not like Tim Sylvia big, but he is big, and that's an old school reference. Let me know in the comments if you know who Tim Sylvia is. I am curious how many fans are newer, how many have been around since the 90s. Anyway, Mick Parkin, pretty big guy. Not tremendous, big enough. He moves forward, doesn't have that big heavyweight power, but he will stay busy with the striking. He will slow the pace down. The guy is boring as all hell. He'll slow the pace down, get you to the ground. He's got good BJJ, phenomenal control. If he can get the fight to the ground. He couldn't take down Muhammad Usman, didn't really try. Did take down Caio Machado 3 times, which is like great. 3 times, 3 takedowns. You should score really well. 6 minutes of control. Still didn't score shit. But this is a very different matchup because his opponent is really bad. Lukasz Brzeski is not very good. Lost to Martin Badai. That's a quality loss. Lost to Williams. Not so quality. Cortez Acosta ended up being quality, but he was knocked out cold. Then he did just beat Walter Walker. Walter Walker was supposed to be a giant Dagestani Brazilian, basically. And turns out the guy has no cardio whatsoever. The guy just no cardio at all. Immediately gassed, and Lukasz was able to survive. Lukasz Brzeski can be tough. He can get finished. I do think this probably goes to a decision. I think Mick Parkin slows the pace, gets a takedown, just lays on top of Lukasz. Lukasz can go nowhere. I think it's a pretty clear 30-27. Very confident that Mick Parkin wins this fight. But unless you think he finishes, no world is he worth his score. I'm going to leave Mick Parkin out of my lineups. I don't think Lukasz Brzeski wins this fight. I mean, he's got some skills, but he's gotten soft physically since drug testing. He will work in some spinning attacks. Pretty good striker, but Mick is literally a master of slowing the pace and boring the hell out of us. So he is going to slow this pace. He's going to prevent Lukasz Brzeski from spinning, from doing wild, flashy stuff. And then we're just going to watch a 15-minute snooze fest of a heavyweight fight. Mick Parkin's going to win. Don't put him in your DraftKings lineup. Then we have Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosbie. This is another interesting breakdown. I opened this by saying there's a lot of live dogs on this card. Here's one of those situations. Because Sam Patterson, tall, skinny, he's like a giraffe with a massive head. And you know what? Yanal Ashmos in his UFC debut found the head. He found Sam Patterson's head. He moved forward, boom, reached up to little tiny Yanal Ashmus, covered the distance, reached up, blasted Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson is crazy tall for this weight. He's 6'4" at welterweight. It's crazy how tall he is. He can be chinny. We saw it in the Yanal Ashmus fight. He doesn't use that reach very well standing. He doesn't do a good job keeping you at distance. A guy that long should be able to just stand there and just pop, pop, pop. And you should not be able to close the distance. You can close the distance on him. His striking is not great from that regard. It is accurate striking. He is pretty fast. He can finish people because he is so long. By the time this goes from here to here, the force that made its way to the end of that punch is pretty meaningful. Where he does use his length incredibly well is on the ground. He's got those long guy submissions. He'll wrap you up. He'll slow you down. He's working everything from everywhere because of that length. He should win this fight because he's fighting Kiefer Crosbie. Kiefer Crosbie is not a UFC caliber guy. He just isn't. What he is, though, is dangerous. He moves forward. He has some high-level striking background. You wouldn't really know in the fight because he's not very technical, but he moves forward. He comes out, and he throws busy. He lets his hands go. He sets a crazy pace early. He'll start to slow down about the middle of the fight, but he sets a crazy pace early, and he gets wild, and he chases finishes, and he has big power. Kiefer Crosbie is not very good. He's not a grappler. He could probably get submitted here. But what Kiefer Crosbie does do is throw big and throw heavy, and we have seen Sam Patterson and his giant legs completely slumped over. We've already seen it. We've seen it happen. So Kiefer Crosbie can do it. Will he do it? Probably not. Can he? Of course he can. I'm probably going to fade both sides of this fight, but if you are building a few different entries, I think you need exposure to both of these men. If Sam Patterson wins this fight, he probably puts up some good points because he will finish Kiefer Crosbie. If Kiefer Crosbie wins this fight, he's at $6,900. He's going to flatline Sam Patterson, put up potentially 100-something points. So if you're chasing a giant payout and you have these large tournaments with multiple entries, you're going to have some with Kiefer, some with Sam Patterson. You can let our optimizer do the work if you're a premium member. I do think Sam Patterson wins this fight. He's literally just the better fighter everywhere, except power and chin. But we've seen him knocked out, so what are you going to do? Then we have an adjusted lineup. We have Muhammad Mokaev early on the card. I don't know if they moved. There's two schools of thought here. They moved Muhammad Mokaev earlier on the card. They did that for one of two reasons. One, this fight is in the middle of the night. This whole card is in the middle of the night locally. So all the English people, the Irish people that are hopping over the water, everybody going to this event is watching it in the middle of the night. Because the UFC said, hey, the Americans are the ones that pay the bills around here. The Americans are the ones paying $80 for a pay-per-view. So we got to cater to them. The locals will show up. The other locals basically watch it for free. Some watch it for free on whatever local broadcast. Others pay $10 a month and they get it. So the majority of the money, the giant lion's share of pay-per-view money for the UFC comes from America. So they put these cards for our benefit, timing-wise, so that they don't miss out on our pay-per-views. It sucks for the fighters because they'll be fighting in the middle of the night and the fans. So one school of thought is they have Muhammad Mokaev early as hell on this card to get fans into the arena. They want fans there. Otherwise, it's quiet and it's weird and it sucks. So they put a good fighter. This is basically a flyweight title eliminator. They do this early in the card because they want fans in the building. The other school of thought is Muhammad Mokaev is boring as hell. Just crotch sniffing, diving at legs the whole time, boring. I think it's the first. I think they want fans in the building early. I don't think they want people literally napping, waking up at midnight, then coming to the arena. So I think that's why they have him early. But either way, this is a very important fight for the division. Both of these gentlemen are essentially one win away from making a very real case for a title fight. We got Muhammad Mokaev. I mentioned already, crotch-sniffing wrestler. He's just diving at legs over and over and over again. He has 7 fights in the UFC with 28 takedowns. That tells you he's got no control at all, and he doesn't. You can stand up on this guy, no problem. 28 takedowns in 7 fights. His striking, pretty bad. And we saw a lot of it in this Perez fight because Perez was able to defend some takedowns. You see, Muhammad Mokaev had less than 1 round of control time, which means more than 2 rounds, that dude was standing. It was not pretty. It was not pretty. This striking is pretty bad. But he came out after the fight and said, hey, the reason I slowed down, the reason my striking looked so bad is I had a staph infection. And if you believe that, then Muhammad Mokaev is an incredible price point at $8,400. Incredible. Let's go back to him very quickly. 74 points is the lowest he's ever scored, and that's because he could not get his wrestling going. But again, he said he had a staph infection. So if we remove the staph infection from the equation, scored 102, 99, 122, 120. Guy puts up numbers because of that wrestling. He's fighting Manel Kape. Manel Kape is a phenomenal striker. He's got power, he's got speed, he's got all the things. He can be a very dangerous guy. He can also fight for a full 15 minutes and not get exhausted. He only has 2 losses in the UFC. The first was against Pantoja. Well, he's the current champion, so that is what it is. The second was against Mateusz Nicolau, who a lot of people think Manel Kape won that fight. Most people think Manel Kape won that fight. If you add 30 points to this, that only gets him to 58. That's some pretty atrocious scoring for DraftKings Fantasy in a win. He beat Ode Osborne. He beat Zhalgas Zhumagulov. He beat David Dorak. He beat Dos Santos. He doesn't have the greatest track record here. So both of these guys are on win streaks. Both of these guys are doing what they're supposed to do. Neither one of them have that big marquee win yet. That's what this fight is. This fight will be the big marquee win for one of these gentlemen. If Manel Kape can stuff the takedowns, or at least stuff as many as Alex Perez did, Manel Kape wins this fight. Period. End of story. But if he can't, he's going to get taken down, ridden out, and he's going to lose this fight. I am on the Muhammad Mokaev side. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. His striking is atrocious. It's some of the worst striking I've ever seen. But we have 6 other fights that we saw in the UFC where his wrestling was phenomenal. Top tier, got the takedowns, got the control, got it done. So I'm going to lean Muhammad Mokaev. $8,400 is a discount on a guy that scores routinely over 100 points in his fights. But again, if you think that last fight is just who he is and you don't believe the staph infection shit, then Manel Kape's the way to go all day, every day. Then we have Preston Parsons taking on Oban Elliott. Preston Parsons, another guy that will be worth the money if he wins that fight. 108 points against Elder. He did lose to Trevin Giles. Not a great look. Kind of a jiu-jitsu nerd in that fight, but he's a durable guy. He survived, put up 50 points because he did have the takedowns, did have control. 114 in his last fight, which was a decision. 114 a decision because he turned himself into a Nurmagomedov with 7 takedowns. I think Preston Parsons wins this fight. I will have him in my lineup at $8,600 because the upside is tremendous. It's a discount on a guy that when he wins, scores a ton of points. And that's who he is. He's a wrestler. He's going to come forward. He's going to get the takedowns. He only has 2 wins. I'm looking at them both right here. 2 wins in his entire career where he didn't win by finish. Furthermore, by submission. He has 11 wins. 9 of them are by submission. He's taking on Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott's not a dangerous guy. Oban Elliott isn't particularly amazing at any one thing. He's just a well-rounded guy. He's got plenty of cardio. When he's striking, he wants to dance around the outside, fire off an overhand or 2 to close the distance. He's fast. He's athletic. There are a couple of random spins in there for no reason, but he's not dangerous. He doesn't chase submissions. So this is, in all likelihood, a decision. I think Preston Parsons, we've seen him win decisions. We've seen him go the distance. So I think this fight will go the distance. And if it doesn't, it's Preston Parsons winning by finish. If it does, hopefully Preston Parsons had some success with the wrestling, had some success with the takedowns and the control. Preston Parsons is going to be the pick. The guy puts up numbers, and I think we're getting a little bit of a discount on his pricing because of Oban Elliott. Then we have Modestas Bukauskas taking on Marcin Prachnio. This is a fight where everybody's loving the dog. I have not seen a lot of people pick Modestas in this fight. I see a lot of people on the Marcin Prachnio side, though. And Modestas Bukauskas is not a guy that you can officially trust. He lost to Zach Pauga. He beat Zach Pauga, lost to Vitor Petrino, which is quality, lost to Roundtree, which is quality. But even in the Zach Pauga win, I said he lost. He might as well have lost. He didn't do much. He struggled a little bit to get the hands going. He struggled to really establish himself as the dominant one in that fight. And that's sort of how Modestas Bukauskas is. He's a versatile striker. He can be dangerous on the feet. But if he doesn't have the power to knock you out, the guy gets hit. He's low volume and he gets hit. He has a negative striking differential, meaning he gets hit more than he hits his opponents. He does have a 71% takedown defense, but not a ton of people will try to take him down. Modestas Bukauskas is an interesting guy. He's only $8,500, which is sort of enticing, but I can't trust him. I cannot trust him to win this fight. He is taking on Marcin Prachnio. This is who everybody is very confident in. A lot of people think Marcin Prachnio wins this fight. He did just beat Devin Clark. He also lost to Vitor Prachnio. Quality loss. I know Vitor turned out to be a dummy in his last fight, but quality loss. He beat William Knight. But the problem is when he's winning these fights, he's not scoring shit. 79 points in a win over Devin Clark. 62 in a win over William Knight. He just doesn't do enough. He is a combat karate guy. He has over 400 combat karate wins in his career before the UFC. But he doesn't fight like that in the UFC. We'll call him a technical brawler. He comes in, he throws a little bit inside the pocket, but then he works his way to the cage. He hangs out for a little. He's not as dangerous as you want him to be. He doesn't shoot as many takedowns as you'd want him to. I got to fade both sides of this fight. I think Modestas Bukauskas wins this fight, but I got to fade both sides of it because Marcin Prachnio doesn't score well in a win, and I don't trust Modestas enough to actually do what he needs to do. So I'm going to fade both sides. Neither one will be in my DraftKings lineup. Then we have Caolan Loughran taking on Jake Hadley. $8,700 for Caolan. I do think he wins. He's the much bigger fighter in this matchup. He was the one already on the card. Caolan is a powerful guy. He's got a big, wide base. He'll throw with intent. We don't have that UFC finish from him just yet, but it's okay. Because what we do have from him is some takedowns and some control time. Caolan Loughran came into the UFC as like the next Conor. Supposed to be a guy with big power, big speed, finishing people on the regional scene. He's a busy striker with good footwork. And then he came in, he showed up, he started wrestling. And I'm good with that. I actually don't have a problem with that. When I'm talking about DraftKings Fantasy, I want guys that can do more than one thing. Because if I'm relying on Caolan to only win the striking exchanges and then little itty-bitty Jake Hadley shows up and he's too fast for him, we're screwed. I think Caolan Loughran wins this fight. $8,700 I may do. He put up 111 points in his last fight. He put up 45 in a loss in his UFC debut against Taylor Lapilus, who's very good. He is fighting Jake Hadley. We know as of filming this, Jake Hadley missed weight. What I don't know is if he then made the weight. I don't know. We're filming this live. Watch the Minty Bets weigh-in recap right here on We Want Picks, and she'll give you the full rundown of what happened and how it all happened. Jake Hadley's a little itty-bitty young man. We've seen him out-wrestled. Cody Durden out-wrestled the absolute shit out of him. Rodrigo Nascimento out-wrestled the absolute shit out of him. Charles Johnson, that was a good back-and-forth fight. Charles Johnson just outworked him a little bit. A couple of cool exchanges in there. Charles Johnson was just a little busier. Jake Hadley is small. He's stepping up on short notice. He is a good fighter, though. He's pretty well-rounded. He's got some sneaky Hail Mary submissions. His striking isn't terrible. He's pretty fast. He'll stay in the pocket. He does the right things. He's got plenty of cardio, full 15 minutes worth. I think Jake Hadley gets pushed around. I think he gets bullied. I think he gets big brothered in this fight. I think he gets taken down. I think he gets backed up. He gets walked down. I don't think Jake Hadley wins this fight. I think Caolan does. And I will probably have Caolan in my lineup. Then we got Molly McCann taking on Bruna, Brasil. $9,200 for Miss Molly. And it's tricky because at 125 pounds, Molly McCann's not very good. She's just not good. At 115 pounds, she looked pretty damn good this week. Fast, accurate. And we're not going off of fist fight. We're going off of bag work and workouts. But she looks spectacular physically. And we always knew Molly McCann was a dog. She is not afraid to get into a fist fight. Let's look at the fights she lost. All right, Erin Blanchfield just sort of took her down, submitted her instantly. Julia Stoliarenko took her down and submitted her instantly. Outside of that, she's got some quality wins over some good opponents. Obviously, fine. Santos one isn't bad. Procopio, I don't even think she's in the UFC anymore. Jillian Robertson, fair. That's not a bad loss. But what we're not seeing is Molly McCann get knocked out. And that's who she's fighting. She's fighting Bruna, Brasil. Bruna, Brasil is a powerful striker. She's a low-volume striker. She doesn't let her hands go. She doesn't fire away, but she does have some very real power in her hands. She's very creative on her feet. She will throw a lot of different strikes. She's just not doing them at volume. She has some takedowns, but they're BJJ nerd takedowns where she'll like grab the butt and then step over it and pull you over her leg. I don't think Bruna Brasil wins this fight. I was coming into it like, oh, Molly's not good. I'm going to go the dog here. And then you look at Molly physically, she looks spectacular. You look at Bruna's fights and she's just not really letting her hands go, not doing what she's supposed to do, a little too hesitant. So I got to go Molly here. I don't know if I'm going to put her in my lineup because she's going to have to finish Bruna to cover that salary. She's going to have to finish her. And Bruna's pretty tough. Denise Gomes finished her, but Denise Gomes hits like a freight train. And you know what? Maybe at 115 pounds, so does Molly. I think Molly wins. If you throw in your lineup, I don't think it's the worst decision. I just don't know if I'm going to do it. Then we have Nathaniel Wood taking on Daniel Pineda. Nathaniel Wood's the biggest favorite on this card, and he is priced accordingly. He's a very good fighter. He's a good striker. He's got solid power, great dirty boxing. He can grapple. We've seen takedowns in pretty much every single one of his fights, except Casey Kenny, who out-grappled him. And Nathaniel Wood's good. He's a durable guy. He does get a little chinny. He sort of slumps down, but he pops right back up. Andre Fili dropped him. Muhammad Mokaev dropped him. And then he went back, and he basically dropped them. He didn't get an official knockdown over Muhammad Mokaev, but he had that dude on ice skates. He did drop Andre Fili. Like, Nathaniel Wood is an absolute dog. He's very tough. You get a little nail bitey, a little nervous, because he can be a little wobbly on the feet, but he's a very, very good, very dangerous fighter. He is priced accordingly. He's taking on Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda has had 43 fights in his career. That's an astonishing number in and of itself. 42 of them didn't go to a decision. This last fight against a not very dangerous Alex Caceres is the first time Daniel Pineda made it to a decision. The first time in 43 fights. This fight's not going to go to a decision. Nathaniel Wood, in all likelihood, finishes Daniel Pineda, and he's worth the money. Daniel Pineda is dangerous. He has a couple of Hail Mary submissions. He moves forward, bombs away like a maniac. Daniel Pineda is very, very dangerous, but only for a few minutes. And yes, Nathaniel Wood could get slumped. We've seen him a little chinny. We've seen it. But we've also seen him pop right back up and then fire away. I do think Nathaniel Wood wins. I think he finishes Pineda. I think he's $9,500 is so much money. And there is some risk because Daniel Pineda is dangerous. But I think Nathaniel Wood proves to everybody, shows everybody why he was at that price point. Then we have the main card opener, Arnold Allen taking on Giga Chikadze. This should be a fun fight. Arnold Allen, very good striker. Very good striker. He loves coming forward. He's got a pretty vertical stance. That sort of helps protect him when he's on the outside in range. He's got good footwork, good hand speed. He'll throw in a takedown or two occasionally. It's been a while. He's coming off that loss to Movsar Evloev, where honestly, some knees that may or may not have been illegal under the rule set could have changed the course of that fight. And those are his losses. If we go back, he was on this insane win streak. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fight win streak. And I think it was longer than that. That's just in the UFC. And then he lost to Max Holloway. Okay. You're going to see this Calvin Kattar TKO. I believe that was a knee injury. He lost to Max Holloway. That's a quality loss. That's a quality loss. That just is what it is. Then he got out-wrestled, wet-blanketed by Movsar Evloev. Also is what it is. Hopefully this is not a downward spiral for Arnold Allen, right? Because these are two very high-level quality losses. But Arnold Allen is still a very good striker in every regard. He's taking on Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze is also a very good striker. But he relies on kicks more than most. And Calvin Kattar exposed him in that fight. Calvin Kattar lit his ass up with boxing and boxing alone. And Arnold Allen can do more of the same. I think Arnold Allen does do more of the same. This was 5 rounds. That was a main event fight for Giga Chikadze. But I think Arnold Allen lights up Giga. I think he's a little faster. I don't think the kicks matter at all. Giga does have some very incredible kicks. He's from Georgia, but you don't see really the Georgian wrestling. He's got a solid jab. But again, it's a lot of kick work. He is coming off this win over Alex Caceres where he did not look like himself. He didn't look very good. He won the fight, but he didn't do anything in the first round, so he didn't really get going until the second round. And then he was only landing 1 strike at a time, not throwing combinations. You just got to go Arnold Allen here. I think he gets it done, and I think he's just insanely busy. Then we have Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Gregory Rodriguez. You're going to have to pick your side here. You're going to have to pick your side. This is a very, very tricky fight. We got Christian Leroy Duncan, high-pressure fighter. He's got 9 finishes in 10 wins. Powerful striker. He likes to move forward. He's got good pressure, good hand speed, good creativity. If things are coming back his way and he doesn't enjoy it, he'll work in some takedowns. That win over Claudio Ribeiro you see in that last fight there, that TKO, that wasn't standing. That was a grounded pound finish because some fire came back his way. He's like, let me wrestle. He's a well-rounded guy. He's a durable guy. This loss to Armen Petrosyan, the only loss in his career, he was just out-techniqued. He was sort of feeling himself a little too confident, and Armen Petrosyan literally just stuck to clean technique, nothing fancy, clean technique, and he ended up winning that fight because of it. He's taking on Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. At this point, we're all very familiar with RoboCop. He's an insanely durable guy who will move forward, bomb away with his hands. He's got a BJJ black belt. He can grapple. He can wrestle. He can do all the things. He's a very, very good fighter. This loss to Bruno Ferreira basically did exactly what you want a loss like that to do. So if we go back, striking win. He got knocked out. Came back, Dennis Tulun, let me work in some wrestling. Only needed 1 takedown. Next fight, let me work in some wrestling. So we got Gregory Rodriguez with all of these finishes, both standing and on the ground, because he is a very aggressive guy everywhere. Typically pretty durable. Taking on Christian Leroy Duncan, who has 9 finishes in 10 wins. I do think, this is so, I went back and forth. I flipped over and over and over and over. I was like, Gregory Rodriguez is going to win this fight because he's going to wrestle. Then I was like, but Christian Leroy Duncan is a durable guy. We've never seen him knocked out. We have seen Gregory knocked out. Christian Leroy Duncan's going to let his hands go. I have flipped back and forth. You're going to have to make your own decision here. Ultimately, I landed on Christian Leroy Duncan, but $7,900 for Gregory Rodriguez, 91 points, 99 points, 109, 141. Like, when this guy wins, the points he puts on the board are astonishing. So you got to pick your side here. I'm leaning Christian Leroy Duncan because he's a hair younger, and I'm positive he's durable. But this will be his toughest opponent ever, and that's why I opened this card saying we got a lot of untested young people. Christian Leroy Duncan is one of those people. Then we have the featured fight of the evening. King Green officially changed his name. He is no longer Bobby. And his nickname shouldn't be King anymore either because now it's King Green, which makes no sense. But we got King Green, a very good, very busy striker. He's got that Roy Jones Jr. style with his hands at his waist. He'll leap in. He'll throw. He's pretty active. He's pretty busy. Very good takedown defense. We finally saw a takedown out of him in the Jim Miller fight, and he dismantled Jim Miller in this fight. He was just too good of a striker. 186 significant strikes in 3 rounds. I think King Green can win this fight. Quite literally because he's going to be the better striker and he's got good takedown defense. So those 2 things, he should win, right? He should be able to defend the takedowns and he's the better striker. So he should win. But Patty's the kind of guy that just continues to surprise people. He submitted Jordan Levitt, who's supposed to be a great grappler. The Gordon fight, that was a tricky decision. A lot of people think he didn't win. And then he beat Tony Ferguson, who's 198 years old, but he just tons of control time. It wasn't an exciting fight, but tons of control time, lots of strikes, stayed busy. My only concern here is Patty looks physically phenomenal. He does struggle with some mental health stuff, and he even said that his coaches like a month ago wanted to pull him out of this fight, being like, dude, you're spiraling. You can't fight. Get it under control. And he got it under control. Paddy Pimblett strikes with his chin right up in the air, but he hasn't really been knocked out. Paddy Pimblett doesn't have the best takedowns in the world, but he has been getting them. Paddy the Body could absolutely get these takedowns and ride out a win. If he gets takedowns, you do not get back up. He has phenomenal control time. The last person that took down Bobby Green was Israel. Every time I do that, I want to say Israel Adesanya. My goodness. Islam Makhachev was the last person that took down Bobby Green. Can Patty take him down? I don't think so. I think Bobby Green wins this fight. I think the DraftKings money is probably better on the Patty side. because I don't think Bobby's going to knock him out. I think if we get a decision, I think Patty probably takes a round because he'll get a takedown. He'll hold him there. This is a really close fight. It's an interesting fight. I think Bobby Green wins, but every day that goes by, I lean more and more towards, it might be Patty. So there's another pick your side. I'm on the Bobby side because at the end of the day, I got to get out of my own head, just look at it logically. He's the better striker, and I don't think he's going to get taken down. So got to go King Green co-main event. Tom Aspinall taking on Curtis Blades. Tom Aspinall, very untested. And that's I'm not saying that as an insult, but the guy quite literally has the lowest amount of octagon time of any champion. Period. And even if you leave the UFC and look across his entire career, the guy has like 15 total minutes of fight time in his entire career. And on one hand, that tells you how good he is. He's just destroying people. On the other hand, we just don't know what he's going to look like with some adversity. You see this loss. This is a rematch. The guy blew his knee out in 5 seconds. So literally 15 seconds. So who the hell knows? Like that means nothing. The farthest he ever went to a fight was with Andrei Arlovski, and in the second round, he got a takedown, submitted him, and that was it. That's the farthest we've seen from him. Smoked Jake Collier, not great. Smoked Badeau, not great. Beat Andrei Arlovski, old, and he had to wrestle him. Beat Spivak, actually decent, no chin. Beat Volkov, that's the quality win. But again, took him down, submitted him instantly. Beat Tybura, good win. But again, super fast. Beat Pavlovic, good win. But again, super fast. If Tom Aspinall wins, you see the scores here. You know he's worth the money. He's taking on Curtis Blades. And while I want to sit here and glaze his takedowns, Curtis Blades, the best wrestler at heavyweight. Curtis Blades wrestles like a welterweight. Bro, we got to go back 3 years to the last time he shot a freaking takedown against Rosenstruck. 3 years. The guy hasn't, and this isn't tried to shoot a takedown and didn't get it. No. Didn't attempt takedowns. He fought Sergey Pavlovic, the most dangerous striker in the UFC at the time. Didn't even attempt the takedown. Was like, I could hang a boot, knocked out. So can we really trust Curtis Blades to start wrestling when it's time to wrestle? I don't know. He didn't do it when he was supposed to in this fight. Jalton Almeida just out-wrestled the shit out of him. He didn't try to take down Aspinall, but that was literally 15 seconds. He went 2 rounds with Dawkins, who was a very good striker at the time, or at least we thought so. He ended up knocking him out in the second round, but didn't try to wrestle. And this was the beginning of the end, right? Knocked the guy out and was like, I don't need to wrestle. And he hasn't wrestled since. So that's what this makes so tricky about this because, and I know I just said that's what makes so tricky about, I know I just fumbled over my words. But Curtis Blades, supposed to be a great wrestler who doesn't wrestle. Tom Aspinall, seemingly phenomenal. We've never seen him in trouble. What the hell happens if he gets taken down? We don't know. What happens if the fight is 3 rounds? We don't know. We don't know anything. I'm probably going to fade this fight for all of those reasons, but certainly a little exposure to both of them, if you have multiple entries going on, is probably the right move. And then we have the very controversial main event. Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad. And I say controversial because everybody, it's split. It seems to be split down the middle as far as, I know it seems like the consensus is, and the majority is Leon Edwards, but the vocal minority is all over Belal Muhammad. Jacob picked Belal Muhammad at his underdog lock of the week, and the comments are, it's just a flood of people 100% certain in everything that they say. Fade of the week, worst pick you've ever made. Belal gets smoked, you're a loser. You eat frozen hot dogs in one bite. And then the other half of the comments are, great pick, I love it, Belal wins here. So everybody's 100% positive, and it should be no surprise to you. You know how you act. Should be no surprise to you. You're 100% confident in your position. I am not. I picked Leon Edwards to win. I think Leon Edwards will ultimately end up defending the takedowns. I think it's a close fight, though. I think it ends up in a decision, and I think it's 3 rounds to 2 for Leon. I think Belal will have some wrestling success, not as much as he needs to take a full 25-minute decision. I think Leon will defend some takedowns, win a few rounds, be the snappier striker. I would be more confident in Leon if he didn't turn fights into staring contests. He's not very active. He's a very inactive guy. Look at this. 25 minutes of fighting, landed 57 significant strikes. You know that's 10 significant strikes a round? That's a joke. 55 in this fight. 77 in this fight. He only went over 100 in one fight, and that was Usman 2, and that's because Usman didn't really try to wrestle. Leon Edwards is a low-volume guy with no real sense of urgency, but he is good, and that's why I think he wins. But if we're building a DraftKings lineup, and I have $7,400 on a guy that always covers his salary, I'm going to go that route. The Damian Maia fight, he did not cover his salary because it was a striking contest because he was worried about Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu, which is a very fair thing to be worried about. Smoked Wonderboy Thompson with the wrestling. Smoked Luque with the wrestling. Knocked out Sean Brady. And then beat Burns with the striking. 132 significant strikes. Belal Muhammad has 9 wins in a row. This is a rematch. And before you guys, here it is. Let's go back. Here's the rematch. No decision because of an eye poke. And you guys are going to say, oh, Leon was smoking him in that first fight. I think I agree. Leon was winning that first fight. But guys, look how many years ago. 2021. More than 3 years ago. More, because this was in March. I fully understand people picking Leon as I did. I also fully understand picking Belal. Because if he comes out and he wrestles nonstop and he has some success, not only will he score well in DraftKings Fantasy, he will win this fight. I'm picking Leon. He is not going to be in my DraftKings lineup. Belal will be. He needs some underdogs. And even in a loss, I think he can put up some very good points. Guys, that is the breakdown. Let me know who you think wins these fights. Don't forget, become a premium member. The premium members have been putting up hundreds of thousands of dollars of winning DraftKings tickets because they have access to the optimizer. They have access to the data analyzer now. This is a brand new tool. We released it this week. It has a full tape index. You can click on any one of these buttons and watch the fights. You can filter by fighter. You can look at their significant striking stats. You can look at knockdowns, reversals, submission attempts. You can use this to build your DraftKings lineup. And we're also going to add some more stuff to this tool. Everything I mentioned, $10 a month, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top.